In the busy heart of ancient Rome, there was a young philosopher named Lucius. He was famous for his sharp mind, a man who spent his days reading and talking with others about great ideas in the Forum. From sunrise, Lucius could often be found in the crowd, his voice rising above the noise of traders and politicians, speaking about virtue, wisdom, and Stoicism. Even though Lucius was respected for his knowledge, he felt something was missing. He had studied philosophy for many years, but still felt a deep restlessness. No matter how many debates he won or how many students listened to him, Lucius wondered, is it enough to speak of virtue, or must I live it fully to understand it? One afternoon, as Lucius walked through the busy streets, he overheard people talking about problems. Political troubles in Rome were growing, and the people were worried. Corruption had spread in the Senate, with powerful men using the laws for their own gain, while common people suffered. Fear and uncertainty filled the city, and soon protests began. The Forum, once a place of ideas, had become full of anger and frustration. Lucius could not ignore what was happening. He knew this was an important moment, not just for Rome, but for him. The teachings of the Stoics were not meant to stay in books or be talked about in quiet places. This was his chance to live those teachings, to act on them. But it was not without danger. Speaking out against powerful men would surely bring trouble. Lucius stood at a crossroads. Should he stay silent and keep his safety? Or should he fight for justice, even if it cost him everything? He looked inside himself and remembered the teachings of the great Stoics. He knew that the only things he could control were his thoughts and actions. The outside world, power, fame, money, was temporary. The real fight, he realized, was not with the corrupt senators, but with his own fear. At that moment, Lucius decided he would speak, not for glory, but because it was the right thing to do. The next day, Lucius stood before the people in the Forum. His voice was calm but strong as he spoke against the corruption in the Senate. He talked about virtue, justice, and the importance of living with nature and reason. His words touched many, and soon a crowd gathered around him. But not everyone liked his courage. In days, powerful senators, afraid of Lucius's influence, started to act. They spread lies, ruining his name. He lost his job as a teacher, his friends left him, and rumors of his exile started. It seemed like his choice to stand up for justice only brought pain and loneliness. Alone and sad, Lucius left Rome and wandered the hills. For weeks he questioned everything he had believed. Was I wrong? He asked. Is this the cost of virtue? To be pushed away by the world? Doubt filled him, and for the first time, Lucius thought about giving up. But one evening, as he sat by a stream, watching the sunset, something changed in him. He remembered the Stoic ideas that had guided his life. The world may be hard and unpredictable, he thought, but I can still control how I react to it. He knew that while he couldn't control others, he could control his own mind and heart. He remembered the Stoic lesson of acceptance, amor fati, the love of fate. It wasn't enough to just accept what happened. He had to embrace it. The hardships, the loss of friends, the threat of exile, these were not punishments, but challenges to grow stronger and wiser. In that moment, Lucius felt peace. He realized that real power didn't come from controlling others or the world. It came from within. With this new understanding, he made a promise. He would go back to Rome, not to fight with anger, but to live as an example of Stoic virtues, courage, self-control, wisdom, and justice. When Lucius returned, he found that Rome had changed. The problems had gotten worse, and the people were more divided. But instead of hiding, he chose to walk among the people, offering calm and wise words. He no longer tried to change the whole world, but focused on what he could control, his own actions, and the people he could help. Lucius's calmness and strength started to gain attention. People who had once laughed at him now listened. His enemies, seeing that they couldn't break him, began to respect him. Even some senators who had plotted against him started to rethink their actions. Lucius had become a quiet force for change, not through power or violence, but through his strong character. Over time, Rome's political situation improved, the corrupt senators were removed, and a new time of justice began. Lucius did not seek praise for this. He stayed humble, continuing his study of philosophy and teaching anyone who wanted to learn. Years passed, and Lucius became a mentor to many. He taught that the greatest battles in life were not fought on a battlefield or in the Senate, but inside the human soul. He encouraged his students to face challenges with courage, to accept what they couldn't change, and to always seek wisdom and virtue. One day, as Lucius sat with his students, one asked, "Master, how did you find the strength to stand against such powerful enemies?" Lucius smiled and said, "The true enemy was never the senators or their threats. It was the fear and doubt inside me. Once I understood that, I was free." Lucius's story became a legend, told to many generations. His teachings helped others find their own inner strength, guiding them through life's difficulties with calmness and wisdom. And though Lucius eventually passed away, his legacy lived on, reminding everyone that true wisdom comes from changing oneself, not the world. In the end, Lucius was remembered not for the battles he fought, but for the peace he created, both within himself and in the hearts of those he touched.